Hi everyone, my name is Pablo Campillo and I'm going to present you my final exam from Resources and ICT. But in first place, I have to explain you in which parts it's divided the project. The first one is composed about a teaching project where we had to prepare some activities with some different tools for students. Then the second part of this project is composed about some reflective answers to some questions related to the subject that the teacher asked us. But now going back to the first part, in my teaching project, students will work with some math content, but while they are doing this, they will be developing some other competencies from different subjects, like arts, English, and other communication and programming skills. Now here you can see a chart with all the curricular content from the Decree 209/2022 related to the primary education from the autonomous community of the region of Murcia. Now, talking about the profile of my students, they are from 5th grade. They are very curious and enjoy a lot discovering new things. They have a really good level in mathematics and they are always motivated to learn more. In addition, they have some basic programming skills which will be very useful for the development of this project, especially when using digital tools and creating small interactive elements. Now, before explaining you my project, it's the moment to watch a conversation with the AI, where I ask it to some ideas for my project. I have thought about all of them, but I consider especially important the second idea related to the peer review, mainly because it will help students to communicate better between each other and also to think about others' perspectives to make their activities cooler. After this introduction, I'm going to explain you in a deeper way my project called Mathemagics. This name comes from the concept of being a magician using maths. This is an interdisciplinary project based on the area of mathematics using programming, computational thinking, geometry, and audiovisual communication tools. This project consists of two compulsory activities, the first one called Geometric Cards and the second one called Mathematical Guesser. Firstly, I'm going to give the step-by-step process of the first activity, the Geometric Cards. The material needed will be a ruler, some color pencils, a camera to do the stop motion, a software to link the videos, and obviously a template given by the teacher. The objective of this activity is to identify and distinguish the characteristics of some different figures that they will be divided into three groups. The first one will be the triangles, composed by the equilaterals, the isosceles, the scalene, the rectangle, the acute angle, and the obtuse angle. The second group will be the quadrilaterals, composed by the square, the rectangle, the rhombus, the rhomboid, and the three types of trapezoids. And finally, the third group will be the round figures, with the circle and the oval. Now, for the creation of the game, students will cut 15 cards from the template, and they will draw the figures mentioned, and on the reverse side, they could write or not some specific characteristics of each figure. After these cards, they can also create some others of other geometric figures. Now for the development of the creation of the game, for example, they can play Who is Who. For this is needed two matching decks. And they can play choosing each player the card which they prefer, and the others should guess the other's card. Another alternative game could be just to memorize the place of the cards with some clues written on the reverse side of each one. And last but not least, they should record in a stop-motion video how do they play their game and the rules they use. For the second activity, the materials needed will be a computer where they can create a comic and use the tool Scratch for programming. In the same groups of two, they must create an interactive game where the player guesses the number that the computer is thinking from 1 to 30. For creating this, the teacher will give to each group a mini guide with the challenge goal and some ideas for the students to start with. In this activity, they should include some help for the player by giving some clues to reflect about some characteristics of the numbers given. For example, saying if it's odd or even, saying if it's multiple or 5 or not, or 3 or not, and if it's higher or lower than the number that the computer is thinking. It's important that students read and understand the instruction given by the teacher where they can see the blocks needed, like ask questions, compare numbers, select variables, making loops, and some other tips. If students are struggled in one part, they will ask the teacher for some help, but they should be the owners and the single creators of their activity. After the program is finished, they will create a story using a digital comic tool. This story should be related to the guessing of the number. For an example, I made the program about a magician that is thinking a number, and in my comic, Explorer has to get to a sanctuary where is hidden a gold statue that the magician has to protect from people that can't guess the number. For this, the magician gives some clues. Then, for the temporalization of the sessions, they will be divided in 3 days. The first one will be the presentation of the project, the formation of the groups, and the development of the first activity of the cards, and start the stop motion video. For the second day, they should start with the programming and the comic. Finally, in the third day, they should watch some other groups' activities and give some positive feedback to them to improve their tasks. And the last 30 minutes, some projects will be presented to the rest of the class. Talking about some specific parts from the inside of the project, the first one I'm going to reflect about is the added value of the digital tools used in this project. For this, I'm going to use the PICRAT framework. But first, what's PICRAT? PICRAT is a framework that combines two dimensions: the PIC part that refers to the student's role, if they are passive, interactive, or creative. The RAT part refers to the impact of the technology by replacing, amplifying, or transforming the learning. Now let's talk about the two main activities of the project. The student's role is creative. They design, invent, and produce their content. On the other hand, the technology amplifies the learning. Stop motion adds a visual and narrative layer that makes the activity more engaging, but it doesn't completely change it. So the added value here is that students learn to express mathematical concepts in original ways to develop basic digital communication skills. For the assessment of this project, I used the rubric that you can see in this image, where the maximum of points is 100, and it includes the key competencies that are related to the curriculum in these activities. The assessment is divided into 5 criteria: the mathematical understanding, the creative use of digital tools, the communication and visual design, the collaboration and expectation, and the project completion and quality. To complete this first part of the project, now I'm going to evaluate the digital tools according to their privacy, data protection, and rights, using the rubric for e-learning tool evaluation. To remember a little, the tools selected were Canva, Stop Motion Studio, and Scratch. They all work well in every aspect except of Canva in the sign up, sign in part, where it has minor concerns because it requires an account creation. Now here is the information extracted from the analyzing of the project in the RICT framework. We can distinguish the importance of communication in pairs for this project, and also to be quite meticulous with the procedure. Now I'm going to start with the second part of this project. For this part, we have to select two questions from a group of 3, and I selected the third and the fourth one. Now, starting with the third question, the personal learning environment describes the tool, communities, and services that constitute their own individual educational platforms that learners use to direct their own learning and to pursue educational goals. Now, in my personal learning environment, I can distinguish ChatGPT and Aula Virtual in the reading part, mainly because these are the tools that I have used more for the reading I'm talking about the evolution of my PLE. I believe that ChatGPT will be very important for the future, as nowadays it can analyze a lot of information and also read from different texts. And I believe that for the future teaching, it will be so important to reflect in a pedagogical way with the help of this tool. Here you can see my PLE with the parts differentiated between each other and the interconnections between the reading and the doing and reflecting part protagonized by the Aula Virtual. For the fourth question, I have selected digital resources, teaching and learning, and assessment. Digital resources means the digital content creation and modifications to the educator's ability to adapt and transform existing openly licensed resources or other modifiable materials, as well as to create new educational digital content individually or collaboratively. This competence also involves aligning and designing and use of such resources with specific learning objectives, teaching contexts, pedagogical approaches, and students' characteristics. An example of this course is when we used many projects this year, like in the comic, where we had to use these resources to create a story using other specific learning characteristics in a digital context. Secondly, teaching and learning involves the educator's capacity to effectively design, implement, and manage to use digital technologies throughout all phases of the learning process. This competence includes using digital tools to enhance instructions, support collaborative and self-regulated learning, and shift the focus from teacher-centered methods to learner-centered strategies. An example in this course were the activities with the robots, augmented reality, and stop motion for kids, included the use of technologies for instructions of important knowledge mixed with self-regulated learning from the students, giving the focus to the active learning. Finally, the assessment refers to the educator's ability to use digital technologies to enhance both formative and summative assessment processes. This includes selecting and applying appropriate digital assessment strategies, analyzing learning analytics to monitor progress, and providing timely, personalized feedback to guide students' learning and the decision-making. An example in this course was where we used assessment for evaluating the tools used in the class, and also in this project by creating a rubric of the elements needed to assess the work of the students. Now, for this last question of all the project, I have to answer the grade I earned, the most challenging role during the course, and the utilization of the AI in this project. Starting with the grade I earned, I believe that for this subject I have worked a lot. This has been one of the most challenging ones in all my life, and I consider that I have worked well. However, my personal performance has been growing during the course, and obviously our work has been getting better as soon as the classes were passing. Then I think that our work was well, but I think that in my personal case, always we have things to do better and to improve. So I think that my grade in this subject is a B. Now, talking about the most challenging role during this course, I think that the role that I have had more trouble with was the analysis, because of the reflections that were needed and about collecting all the feedbacks from the different groups. And now finally, talking about the importance of the AI in the process of the creation of this job, I think that the AI has been quite relevant for me, because it has helped me to think out of the box and to give more reflective answers to what was asked in the development of the project. As well, I think that it has helped me to analyze some documents, and also to scheduling my activity, because I didn't know well how to organize it, but I finally did it. But the most important thing is that most of the ideas came from my mind, influenced by past experiences or watching other projects from other years. And this is the end of the project. I hope that you have liked my teaching project and my reflective answers about the subject. Thank you, and see you next time. Bye.